That hearing is with us now, Senator Claire McCaskill of Missouri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So we heard from GM CEO Mary Barra that she is going to get to the bottom of this with her investigation. You talked about a culture of cover-up. Do you trust her?
Well, I think we'll see how the investigation goes, but the facts are pretty clear. You don't need an investigation to understand that they had a defective switch and someone at GM in the engineering department changed that switch and didn't change the part number. There is no reason to keep the same part number unless you're trying to hide the fact that you've got a defective switch out there that, in fact, ended up killing a number of people on our highways.
All right, so as you clearly demonstrated in that hearing, this was a cover-up. This was an outrage. People died. Is anybody going to go to jail for this?
Well, that's a good question. You know, we have the Citizens United case where our Supreme Court said corporations were people. That was hard for some of us to kind of get our arms around. But if, in fact, they are people, then there needs to be some criminal accountability, depending on what the facts of the investigation show. I know Justice Department is taking a hard look at all of this, including their bankruptcy filings. But here's the thing that really bugs me about what I learned preparing for this hearing. They had a deposition a year ago, almost a year ago, where it was clear this part had been changed out. And this company did nothing between April of last year and January and February of this year. What were they doing for all those months? Why didn't they report this to the federal regulators? The notion that somehow the executive offices had no idea that these lawyers and engineers had dropped a bombshell on them, frankly, just strains believability.
Well, let me ask you about those government regulators and those executive offices. Of course, government regulators knew about this for various degree going back several years. And remember, GM was a wholly owned subsidiary of the United States government following the bailout. What is the government, the U.S. government, responsibility for what happened here?
Well, I think a lot of this depends on when the knowledge that we know the engineers had was in fact transferred up the chain. And that's what these investigations will show. It is possible that these engineers were so interested in covering themselves, especially this Mr. Ray DiGiorgio, who perjured himself a number of times in his deposition. He lied over and over again because afterwards we found the document where he signed off on the changes, a document which was never given to the lawyers in that case, by the way. So when did that information that was in the engineering sector move to the executive level of General Motors? That's what we don't know. That's what Mary Barra refused to talk about until the investigation is complete. That's why I put her on the spot and said, will you come back in front of this committee after this investigation is over? And she committed on the record that she would. Very
quick question. Under the bankruptcy agreement, GM has immunity from any lawsuits before 2009. Is Congress going to force them to compensate these victims?
Well, I think this is a real moment of truth for General Motors. They've tried to lawyer up and play whack-a-mole with these lawsuits, and terrible things have happened. Now it's time for them to come clean, be transparent, and most of all, make all victims whole, no matter when this deadly ignition caused heartbreak in their families.
All right, Senator Claire McCaskill, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, the